Hello everyone, welcome to today's live stream, the 5th of July 2014. How is everyone doing? Nick, you're muted. Well,
what a great start! Yay! I secretly
unveiled
like the most awesome Easter egg, but I was muted, so
That's fine. We're used to it. So how
used to what? Me fucking up and being muted? Or
Yes.
unveiling awesome stuff?
Both. While muted.
While muted.
That's why we do it every week.
Welcome guys, welcome. So, what we'll be doing today, we're changing around a few of the things we do on our live stream. The first of all was a very good recommendation, actually, that we got by Johnham81 on our forums, saying that what we really should do is have people be able to input their questions by whether it's on the forums or replies to the Kickstarter post or whatever on our dev blogs with questions they would like answered during the live stream, because not everyone can make it on the live stream. And as we tried over the past 2 weeks to have a voting poll of everyone voting when would be the best time for the live stream, no one could agree on anything. So from that, I actually think that's a great idea. So we've received some questions from people, and during the live stream I'll go through and answer those questions. I'll also be answering your guys' questions. And most importantly, the biggest change or improvement with the live stream is that we will be posting them on our YouTube channel from now on. So even if you can't make the live stream, you can post your questions on in reply to the Facebook, the Kickstarter, or our forum post of the dev blog with whatever questions you'd like answered, and then whenever you have the time and are able to, you can hop onto YouTube and watch the live stream and have your questions answered, and also see some of the cool stuff that we're announcing. And I just chopped my finger really badly.
Oh.
Never mind. I will survive. Sound like you're about to say something really intelligent there.
Nah, I never do.
Every time I say so, it lags. Well, actually, me saying so is my brain lagging.
I think everyone has like a word like that.
Yeah. The best one is the Japanese word for so, nigga. Not joking. I'm not joking. Awesome. Is it that nigga? Nigga.
Oh yeah, you should totally go to like the US doing that. I'll make lots of friends.
How World War II started, bro. How World War II started.
Yes, definitely.
So, I'm trying to, never mind. So anyway, for the people who haven't read the dev blog, some of the cool updates that have happened in the past 2 weeks of the game is we have the invalid packet bug fixed, which was a really annoying bug that made everything just break catastrophically after more or less an hour of gameplay. It was kind of random. We finally figured out what it was, is that if a message was sent from the server to the client that was too big, what would happen is that the last half of that message, or the last segment of that message, would be cut off. And the reason why this really fucks everything up is computer code, the messages that you receive from the server, it's not as neat and orderly as you would expect from like you receiving mail at your house. What it actually is there's just a never-ending chain of hex code you're receiving, and there's certain parameters in that allow your computer to tell when one message ends and where the other one begins. The problem is with this bug that we had is that when you received a message that was too big, it would cut off the end of that message, which means you didn't know that that message had ended, which means it fucks up the entire rhythm of all the messages. And after that bug, every single message after that can't be read properly because it doesn't know when the messages are ending and beginning. And pretty much everything would just break. You'd still be connected to the server, which is kind of the strange part. So you'd still like be able to ping the server, and you'd still be connected to the server, but every single message that you sent the server or received from the server would be invalid because everything was like off by one letter. Like imagine if you take a page in a book and move the spaces that are in between every single word like 3 letters to the left. It makes it completely unreadable. I always understood programming. I just finally figured out a way to simply explain it.
Yes.
So that was, and that was an incredibly annoying bug because we had absolutely no idea where it was coming from. because everything was working just perfectly fine. And what actually ended up happening, it was not my fault, despite what everyone would like to say. It was actually Matt's fault, which is probably one of the few times they ever made a massive fuck up. But he was trying to find the memory leak, and in doing so, he added in some extra code, expanding the memory buffers and stuff for transmitting and packing up the data, sending it between the server and the client. And by doing that, he wasn't able to find the memory leak with what he was doing, and he decided, well, I'll just leave this code here. It couldn't hurt anything. Actually, it broke everything.
Destroyed everything. That's actually, like, Matt never does anything wrong, but if he does something wrong, it's like everything melts.
It's just catastrophically wrong. Yeah. But the funny thing is, it was really funny being, it was funny for me, because no one was mad at me. The client team was saying, we've looked at the packets that we're receiving on the server, and they're, like, fucked up before they even get to the client. So it's not our problem. And server team was saying, well, the packets are fine when we send them to be sent to you. So, like, no one could figure out, like, where the bug was actually happening, because it wasn't happening on the server, and it wasn't happening on the client. It was literally happening in transit between server and client, which made it incredibly hard to find until Tom finally, like, just downed half a bottle of a Southern Comfort and coffee, and, like, somehow had some brilliant streak and managed to actually find it. Oh, apparently, like, they can't hear me because of the music.
Oh.
I'll shut up so they can listen to Denny's music.
Yeah. Okay, the music is a little lower now.
Okay, there we go.
Height as it always is, but whatever.
So that was an incredibly annoying bug that we finally figured out how to fix. Now, all that's really left is the memory leak, which isn't as big of an issue. The problem is the invalid packet error. We couldn't recover from it because the server hasn't actually crashed. The server's still working totally fine. It just, like, starts speaking in Greek all of a sudden, which, like, I can understand, but no one else can. So it just starts talking in Greek, and no one can understand what's saying. The clients can't understand what's saying, and it also means that if we try and save the game at that point in time, or load from a save after this has happened, and the server has no way of knowing that it has actually happened, it would just be complete gibberish. So that really, like, created some serious issues. But now that we have that fixed, everything's running a hell of a lot nicer. And now we are just narrowing down where the memory leak is. And we actually have found it. We know where it is, but we haven't found it, if that made sense. Where the memory leak is located right now is when a player has messages that they're waiting for to be received from the server, and he logs out. So, like, while the messages are in transit, the player exits the game, those messages are not properly wiped from memory on the server. And now this doesn't seem like too big of a deal, because if you think about it, there's the latency between you and the server is the only chance for a create a memory leak. So, for example, if everyone had latency of 0, there would be no memory leak, because there's no transit time for the messages. But if you actually start thinking about it, when you're in combat, every single time any ship moves in any solar system where you are, that is a message from the server to you, letting you know that that's happening. Or anyone that you can see. Or anytime any of your ships shoot, or your ships move, or an enemy ship shoots, or an enemy ship moves. All these things are messages from the server back and forth. So there's actually, at any given time, if you're in combat or something like that, there's actually a significant amount of messages that are in transit. So that's why we saw the memory leak happening incredibly quickly at times when there was massive battles going on, because any player who disconnected at that point in time would actually create quite a big leak in the memory, because when you're sending messages back and forth between the client and server, the message may be very small, but there's a buffer space that there's a buffer on the message that has to be created to nicely pack it to send it back and forth, and all that extra space is also lost in the memory effectively.
I'll have to put gameplay in the background. It works anyway.
Okay, throw that up there while I explain this. Now, let's not even talk about the football World Cup, and it's football for everyone who says, like, no one knows what the fuck soccer is. It's football. In, like, 67 languages, it's football.
Soccer is for colonials.
No, it's not even colonials, just Americans. Like,
they're colonials.
They are colonials, but there's other like in India, they call it football.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I broke about like 6 or 7 glasses, I think, in the when Greece played against Costa Rica. And it's funny because I've lived in Costa Rica and I am Greek, so yeah, I know both teams, right? But it's just
yeah, you have lived everywhere. What do you consider your like? What is your home country?
Have you seen the video that's trending on like Facebook and stuff right now with like the crazy shirtless homeless guy?
No.
Who's like completely drugged out of his mind? And he's like, this moment, right now, it's amazing. Yeah, that's like, where is my home? Where am I from? I'm like, right here, this space, now, I am here.
You live in your pants and t-shirt, wherever
exactly.
they are.
Exactly. So let us, while we're doing this, let's hop into some of the questions that people have messaged us with. And in the meantime, everyone else start thinking of your questions once I've gone through all the questions that other people have asked us. Once I've gone through all the questions everyone else has asked us, then the people who actually show up stream, you guys can ask questions and we'll have a more in-depth conversation there. But I want to get this out of the way so that we can kind of like just chill out and do all that cool stuff. So, the first set of questions. The first question that we have here is, how is persistency working out in the game right now? If the server crashes, can you crash the server at any point in time and will all the players not lose anything? Right now, persistency is working fairly solidly. It's not completely bug-proof, but so far we've had very few issues with it after the integration of the synchronization server. Because before, the problem we had with persistency is, and some of you will remember that the server, initially, it didn't take very long to load. But as more and more people joined the server, and there was like 1,000 empires spread across the galaxy, it reached the point where saving the game state took like 4 or 5 minutes, which is not really acceptable. So since we added in a new kind of part of the server where it just kind of like copies the game state as it is, and lets the game continue playing while the other server is saving it all to the database. Since we integrated that, it's been working fairly well. There are still some bugs we're working on, but overall, it's about where we expected it to be. We get a corrupted save, I think, once about every 30 or 40 saves, and we're still just bug testing that and figuring out exactly what that's from. The next thing, have we started setting up our server? What?
Oh, no, server saving.
Oh, right now it's saving.
Yeah.
So. Speak of the devil. It's like it knows. So the next one, have we started setting up our servers for Steam Early Access? We have not setting up the we have not started setting up the servers for it just yet, as it is actually incredibly simple. It takes about 48 hours or less. And right now, our priority for all the development team is making sure that the game is ready for Steam Early Access, not preparing the servers for it. As I said, it doesn't take much time at all, so there's not a lot of need to do it right now. All it is an additional cost.
It would probably take more time, actually, if we put them up now. Because we would have to update them separately, I think.
Yeah, there's not much point. When the game is ready for it and all the infiltrators agree that we're ready for it and we're ready to make that move, then we'll have it ready within the next 48 hours. Has there been any further talk about, question number 3, has there been any further talk about letting players explore solar systems prior to them being populated by new players? We haven't really thought much more about it because it's a bit unfair to the newer players in a sense, because other people could have already colonized their systems. But one of the other things we have started thinking on quite a bit and working into the system and toying around with the idea conceptually is having a lot more empty space in the systems in the galaxy where players actually do spawn. So there's a lot more empty systems, a lot of special systems that have unique elements in them. So you still have a lot of space to explore without exploring into someone else's, home turf before they even start playing the game. Question number 4, are there any plans for an advertising campaign after early access and before full release of the game? At the moment, advertising costs are insanely high in the industry, and we don't really think it's a good use of the Kickstarter funds to be spending on advertising versus game development. After all, you guys backed us to make a good game, not to make a good advertising campaign. But I am in talks with a lot of different groups to partner up with people who would be able to help us on the advertising front, because obviously it is something that is absolutely critical for a successful MMO whether we as gamers like that fact or not, it is something that we do need to be addressing. So we don't have any specific plans for the campaign just yet because we can't do it on our own, but we are in discussions with quite a few partners. What progress needs to take place before the game is ready for Steam Early Access? That's a bit of an open-ended question because, for example, on paper, we thought that where the game is right now would be ready for Steam Early Access, with all the features we have in it, with the state they're at. But as, one sec. But as we are in the middle, like, once we get to that point, we get in and play the game, realize that actually it's not really ready. It's hard, because this type of game has never been made before, it's hard to predict what is an acceptable base of features for going out in an early access program. Like, for example, if you're making an FPS, you know what's the basics are required for a minimally really fun and engaging FPS game. Because there is no other game out there like this, it's hard to make it's hard to draw the line of where is good enough for early access before you actually get there. And so here in this scenario, we got here and we realized that actually we do need a few more features and a few more things we want to add in before early access. So it's hard to say exactly. I think right now the main thing that we're going to be working on, the main thing in my mind that I think we need to get sorted out is polishing and improving combat workflow, getting the memory leaks sorted out, and adding in a lot more content into the game. So more ship hulls, more weapons, more engines, missiles, for example, which some of them I'm really excited about getting in, and we should hopefully have the first versions in pretty soon. And shields and stuff like that. That's what I think will really add a lot to the combat, make it a lot more immersive. And once that's in, I think we should be at a state where we'll be able to start considering early access. But again, it's hard to say because we really have to get on it as a gamer and it for a couple of days and see is this ready for the general public yet? Because as gamers, it's not about making money, it's about making a good game. And we don't want to throw the game out there until it is worthy of Steam Early Access. We've seen this happen. We've seen early access been used badly way too many times. And what's really important is we make a good game here.
It's better for everyone if we wait a bit longer and make sure it's actually, ready to play at least somewhat, and just bring it out early and get like everyone pissing on it basically. Because that will do no one good.
Noof890 just interrupted me, asking how do we plan to counter the expanded save time of the servers once early access full release. I already explained that. That's why we have the separate server that just takes a mirror image of the server and then starts saving it while the game is continuing. So there's a very minimal delay for the client, for like the people playing the game. And at least last question from this specific person. Has your microtransaction system been set up? Any concept art on what ships and planet skins there will be to buy? Other than the stuff we've shown on the Kickstarter, we haven't put a lot more work into that, as our first priority is to make the game, not the monetization system. But some of our art department have been throwing around cool concepts, but nothing really, we haven't really nailed down or decided or anything yet. As I said, first priority is making the good game.
It's not finished enough to show on the live stream. Maybe in the near future somewhere.
Okay.
Show something.
So, another question. So assuming we're sticking with, this is the question. Assuming we're sticking with the 3 players per system, how are we going to manage where people spawn? I.e., if your intention is to encourage combat to prevent players from strongholding, are you going to prevent them are you going to prevent the join at the same time? Wow, this grammar is almost as bad as mine. Okay, what I think he's trying, what he's saying is, that's incredible. I'm sorry. Your grammar's much better than mine. Okay, so what he's getting at is, how are we going to approach the 3 players per system? As I said, we still haven't made a final decision, and it's hard to make a final decision on 3 players per system or not until the game is running and we have this upgraded combat system in it, and we get a lot more of the infiltrators in playing the game to really test that out. But personally, what I think that I still like the 3 players per system, not because it prevents players from strongholding or encourages combat, But I think what it does encourage right off the bat is social interaction between empires, which is the most important thing. It's not that I want everyone to be peaceful or that I want everyone to be aggressive. It's that I want people to be interacting with each other. After all, that's why we're playing this ammo. I'm not saying you have to be going to war with them. Not that I want to encourage a hell of a lot of PvP. But the point is that through player interaction is how the most beautiful parts of this game will come to life, through the alliances, through the espionage, through all these elements. That's one reason why I still like the idea of 3-player systems.
3 players per system will not just create conflicts, will also help people who are less good at making like alliances later on, just make them easier to form. Because if you're as weak as everyone else, it's easier. Yeah. It's not less bad to trust someone, because if they actually do stab you in the back, you don't lose as much as when you have like a ginormous empire.
Yep.
And then lose.
And so I think at the moment I'm still liking it theoretically, but there's not. It's hard to say, and I'm very open to changing it. We'll just have to see how it all goes.
Maybe a random system might be fun. Like between, like I feel between 2 and 6, for example. But yeah, but
the problem with random, and it's a discussion we had on the resource spawning of planets, and also there's a second half to this question, which I'll get to in a moment. But on the topic of random, there was a problem we were discussing is like, well, what's your starting planet? Obviously, the first decision was, well, let's make it random. But that actually can create disadvantages and advantages, and that's okay normally. But in a persistent MMORTS game, a random starting planet is actually really crap, because what if you get like a shit planet?
Yeah, that's true.
Or what if you get a slightly worse planet? You're stuck with that. What are you gonna do? Respawn? I mean, it's.
I guess so. I'm pretty sure that eventually, as like people get better at the game and know what to do, they will just keep respawning until they have the optimal way of
and that destroys the entire immersion of the game. You have lots of empty, wasted space in the universe and all that stuff. So that's why, if you notice, like all players start on the exact same kind of planet. All humans start on a Terran planet, the exact same size, exact same amount of resources, everything exactly the same. And that's also why I don't think you just start with a random number of players. Because what happens if you're the poor sod who gets stuck in a solar system with 6 other players? I mean, it's not fair to you, and it's not like this is a hardcore game where you do get penalized for your fuck ups. But it's the player's fuck up. If you fuck up, yeah, like there is penalties for it. If you get into a lot of wars you can't win, there is penalties for it. But I don't want to penalize players based on a bad roll of a die. It doesn't really seem fair. So the second half of that question was, what happens if someone else joins the system before you and they've already colonized a majority of the system? I have said, I being me, has said before, that it will be very difficult to capture planets from other players. So what happens if someone else gets in the system first? They already capture a majority of all the open planets in Astros. How do you just log in and, well, you're screwed? The enemy owns everything else? Not exactly. It's difficult to capture a planet that a player has owned for a long time, and if it is a well-fortified planet. But if a player just started the game and they go and rush out to try and capture as many planets as possible, those planets will actually be incredibly easy to capture. Remember, the only thing, the barrier that makes it harder to capture a planet isn't whether it's owned or not. It's how much troops are stationed on that planet. It's how many divisions of military forces or ground forces are deployed on that planet. And as a new player, it costs you as an old player, it costs you population to make troops. And population are also your primary expanding, like, XP in the game, if you will. So if you don't capture every single planet, you won't have enough population to actually make use of them. And if you are converting all your population into troops, then you'll be having very low population progress, so you're actually be lagging behind the enemy significantly. But the second half of that, which is quite important, is that if you don't build troops and you are trying to evolve these planets and all that stuff, you won't have enough of a military defense to protect all your planets. So if you join in, and a player has obviously made this very aggressive act in your solar system, and he isn't willing to share them at all, then it would actually be quite easy to attack him because he doesn't have a well-defended position. So you would focus your attack on just one of those planets, you would capture it surely, and then after that, you would defend that planet quite well, and he wouldn't really be able to strike back. If he did try and strike back, it would leave all of his other planets unguarded. So by rushing to capture all the planets, it does actually put the aggressor in a fairly weak position defensively, that there's not a lot he can actually do to guard himself once he gets to that position, other than just pray that no one attacks him for long enough that he can fortify up his troops and stuff. And that takes a while. It's not easy to do. It does take a while to generate that population and so forth. So I do recommend, when playing the game, to not overextend yourself, because it never works out well. This is not just in the game design, but in all military tactics worldwide. Overextending yourself is never a good strategy. Unless, and I was actually, no, but I was going to refer more to the Blitzkrieg.
They lost the war. Mongols won until their leader died.
Moving out.
Yeah. No, that's my point though. The Blitzkrieg did work at the beginning. That's the thing, is that the reason I'm referencing the Blitzkrieg is by its basic name. Blitz meaning fast, Krieg meaning war. The concept is that you are able to strike incredibly quickly and beat the enemy before they really have a chance to fortify any defenses. So at this point in time, against an enemy who is overextended or you feel you could crush quickly, there is value in overextending against a specific target if you feel that you're able to take the objective before the enemy is able to properly fortify or defend it and turn into a long drawn-out war. This is what Hitler did with great success in a majority of locations. It really only failed once he got to the Eastern Front against Russia, where even though it was going quite well, he was not able to destroy the Soviet resolve in time. Before, because that immediate strike, that overextension in a very targeted location, that momentum will only last for so long. And that's why it needs to be a quick war. You need to achieve your objective very quickly before your empire starts suffering the fatigue of that overextension. So in this scenario, if you have an enemy player who's captured a lot of planets, you could go for a similar assault against him, where you try and take as many planets as you can in as fast of a time period as you can, which effectively then would even out the playing fields. You would both be overextended, but you would both be so overextended that neither one could really actually take the other one out or capture more planets from the other player. So it would act as a bit of a balancing factor. This is a more riskier play, but if executed properly with the proper planning, could still be very, very successful. Okay, further questions, I think. Wait, let me just check all our different. That totals up all the questions we had on our forums. I don't think.
I asked for questions all on Facebook as well. I don't think we got any on time.
No, to everyone, instead of posting them on Facebook, they all posted them on the forums. That's where we had a shitload of questions on the forums.
Yeah, no, I know, but I asked.
Okay, so I think that pretty much covers it. If we did miss your question, I apologize. It's not my fault. It's Luke's fault. He'll be beaten mercifully.
Overextended. I don't think we will do rebellions anytime soon.
Yeah, Rebellion, we're not going to be adding, the Rebellions will be added in a future expansion to the game when we have more, when we add in a whole lot more diplomatic elements to planet management, both good and bad. And Rebellions will be one of the downsides of overworking your population, stuff like that. But remember, overextending, I'm speaking militaristically, overextending militaristically doesn't actually hurt your population, or it hurts it very little. Could be significantly worse. That wouldn't really drive a population to rebel necessarily, except if the overextension led to economic breakdown or something like that, in which case it could, similar to the Soviet Union. But other than that, I don't think it would affect your population too much, unless it was failing, at which point in time, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, overextension basically means that you're hurting your population by taxes and stuff. That's usually why they develop.
It can. It doesn't always mean that.
It's why in EU4, for example, overextension is really bad, because your people hate you. And basically, rebels see that you're weaker because you're overextending, so they take the opportunity to rebel.
Not always. I mean, that would depend on a lot of other modifiers. Because just because you're overextended doesn't mean the life of your population is bad, that they're living a bad life. It doesn't mean a lot of these elements.
No, they don't have to, absolutely.
So, And honestly, when it comes to the civilian life, they aren't that immersed in what your military is doing. So if it is kept separate, if it is not affecting the generic population, I don't think they would really care what you were doing. Unless it started affecting them, in which case they would really start to care. But that's not a symptom of overextension in itself. That's a symptom of other governing issues. Okay, so what are some of the questions we've gotten here? Well, the Blitzkrieg, someone actually brought up a good point. The Blitzkrieg won the battle, but it didn't win the war. Well, it did actually win a lot of wars. I mean, it captured Poland, Czechoslovakia, France, most of Belgium. I mean, it captured a hell of a lot of places. So it depends on what you define as the war as a whole. But as a whole, it is actually, you do have a bit of point there. As a whole, Blitzkrieg is not a good tactic for an entire war, because if it doesn't end when you want it to, you're incredibly overextended for the second half.
Oh, Thomas joined the call, apparently.
What? He doesn't need to join the call. I already explained the... okay. Okay.
So, here he comes. Ta-da!
Awaiting orders.
He wants to be all social and shit. Hey Tom.
Hello.
Why do you want to be social?
Well, you know me.
You're a programmer. You're
That's
supposed to be
Tom, all social and like kind to people and nice, and a great representation of the League of Legends community.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Hello.
Let me set up the screen. It's a bit better.
Yeah, stitch my webcam there. Okay.
Okay, I was getting confused. I was hearing both the video chat and the Skype chat. My brain hurt.
Okay. Therian Wolf asked a question here about, does the 3 players per system include NPCs? No, it does not. But the 3 players per system doesn't mean that every single system would have 3 players in it. There would be populated systems which would have 3 players, then there would be other systems which would be solely NPC owned, or not have anything in them, or be completely open. But that would be separate from the 3-player systems, if we stuck to the 3-player system concept. But there will always be some systems that are unpopulated completely or owned solely by NPCs. It appears that we're sharing my box, Tom.
Yes.
Oh,
no longer.
Once again, social.
Social. That's it. Getting all up in my space.
Yeah, well, you need to learn to share.
Okay, so Tom sounds half dead. Actually, like your percentages are a bit off, but yeah. Okay.
Oh man, they are.
I like how I covered the entire screen for a second. I am the
How about
game.
the second question?
The game of Tom.
Second question?
Alright, what is the second question? What are we looking at here?
I don't know.
Systems and NPCs. I can discuss that a little. Have we gone through that?
Yeah, go for NPCs.
Okay.
Tom is the NPC man.
I'm totally fucking up the stream right now, so give me a sec. I saved it again.
Oh, Matt wants to join. He's good too. Oh god.
Hey, we got like the whole house now. Okay. You know, just go fuck the screen region. I
can't do anything unless, like, without Matt wanting to. You remember the RAM, the 32 gigs of RAM?
No? You know.
All right. Well, yeah. When Matt found out, when I first joined, you know, Matt said, "How much RAM do you have?" Because he had a lot of like RAM on his computer, and I just built a new computer, so I had, you know, a crap load of RAM. I had 32 gigs. I got a really nice deal, and I thought to myself, "Ha, I'm prepared for this one." I said 32 gigs, and Matt looks and he says, "I have 16." And like the next day, he had 32 gigs of RAM. The next day.
It's a Matt is one of the nicest, most like psychopathically competitive people that I know.
Yeah.
Like normally those two don't, but he's like really nice and kind, but like he will kill you to win. But he's really nice and kind along the way.
I'm glad he's not in the call yet because he can't defend himself.
No, that's the best way to handle Matt.
Oh yeah, he can hear me, but I can't hear him, so I win, obviously. All right, let's get back to the Puppy, come on, buddy. Let's get back to the NPCs and solar systems because I'm gonna get derailed and forget.
Wait a second.
You derail yourself.
I do.
You don't have me in the conversation. Yes, we know. That's why. That's why we're making jokes.
Someone added him. What is this?
Oh, you add him.
Me.
What?
Join me to the call. We're working on it, Matt. You're going to be in the call. You're a cool kid, too.
Yeah,
Technical
Matt,
difficulties.
put on your webcam.
Matt's in.
We actually do
Matt.
want to see you now.
Ha!
To see your pretty face, buddy.
I wouldn't go
No,
that far.
my desk is too dirty.
Too dirty. Yeah, you should have seen my house like 3
Okay,
seconds
well,
ago.
then-
I said live stream, and it was like a tornado came through.
Just pushed everything out of the screen region of the
It's
webcam.
just a mountain of stuff like right here. Like I can touch it.
Yeah, but I've got one of those U-shaped desks that go all the way
Oh,
around
yeah,
me,
yeah.
and it's full.
So, here we go.
That's okay. Just put the camera like right here.
But right in your face.
Zoom it all the way in.
So, okay, so there is a map, and there's no way to see it in the game right now, but I'm working on something with our UI guy. And this map, or series of maps really, describes the amount of influence that a faction has. NPCs are split up into factions and then sub-factions of that primary faction. And every sub-faction has this large amount of influence that spans over the entire galaxy. And the amount of influence, if you want to think about it this way, is just imagine an image, right? And an opaque image has full opacity. It's 1.0 on the alpha scale, if you're familiar with that. And a transparent image, you know, maybe 0 on the alpha scale. So if you want to imagine just a large kind of painting where segments, you know, there are some areas that are more transparent than others, and it has this large kind of interesting gradient, if you want. This spans our entire universe. Everyone has this large map that describes where they exist. And all of this information is unitized among several different sub-factions. So what that means is every solar system, when you add up the influences from all of the sub-factions that exist, add up to 1.0 influence. And what we do when we spawn ships is we actually randomize the affiliation of an NPC fleet to a sub-faction in that system. So what that means is a ship from various different sub-factions can spawn in any solar system. And they actually, I'm working on tools right now which develop migratory influential patterns. These maps are all generated with libnoise, and it's actually really cool stuff, because what can start happening is that NPCs spawn and interact with players and move around in the galaxy can actually change as the game changes. And what winds up happening is you can interact with these NPCs. You can fight them, or you can maybe, you know, cooperate with them in some manner. We're putting in mechanisms to allow you to be friends with sub-factions, or you can fight their enemies to gain influence with them. And what winds up happening is you can actually have kind of a basic alliance, if you want to call it that, where NPCs in your solar system don't try and take over your planet. But by being friends with one faction, you're going to intrinsically be enemies with another. And what's going to wind up happening, and this kind of goes back to, you know, very expansionistic players who want to take over large regions of you know, the universe, of the galaxy. They're going to have to be aware of NPCs that may come through and may not be friendly for them, and they will attack their planets. So there's going to be a certain amount of upkeep that's kind of associated with that. So if, you know, someone from, you know, a very powerful player from a few systems away, you know, decides he wants everything in your solar system, if he's not friends with these NPCs, and you are friends with these NPCs, you have an advantage, which will allow you to secure a foothold. Is that...
You're really hypnotic.
You're watching the arms, aren't you?
He is really hypnotic.
It's a little...
It's
You
the long-
are, it's
It's,
just him.
it's also the long hair. He looks like one of those, one of the card readers. Or like, he uses a
Tarot
glass
card
ball
readers?
to defend the future. Actually, that makes sense.
the future.
That actually makes more sense.
He uses a magical glass ball to make shit up.
Alright, leave me alone, I'm tired. You want memory leak fixed, you'll leave my hypnosis alone. That's my plan, just hypnotize everybody into thinking it's fixed. We're good. The downtime didn't happen.
Actually, one of the things that I think it would be kind of fun to talk about, which we haven't actually discussed much, is the raiding NPC fleets and stuff. And that's something that are you working on that right now, or what are you working on right now, actually, on NPCs?
This week is memory leak only. That's all I'm working on. Until that's fixed, because that's been the big, problem. Even the malformed packet actually came back to the memory leak. There was a bunch of legacy code that kind of worked itself into our framework, and that's a needle in a haystack kind of scenario, which is why it took us so long to fix it. Is because we had to actually go through and say, okay, every little step, what's going on, and it took a very long time, as I'm sure everyone is aware. But yeah, fixing the memory leak is my top priority. I know the results of it happening. I can isolate, the specific situation in which it happens. I don't know exactly why it's happening, but I can sort of whittle my way back since I have a pattern to trace. It's just time consuming. It's really not even that hard. It's just time consuming and digging through technical documentation, which there's only so many hours that you can read through technical documentation a day before you go mad and become Tom. But it is something that we're working on very vehemently.
Last time that happened, I went crazy, shoved some code in, and shit went wrong for a month.
Yeah, and that's how the invalid packet then was created.
This can't hurt anything. Oh well, let's just leave it in.
It's everything.
We're just taking it slow and steady, being very careful with everything we do so as not to introduce another bug like that. I think, and I can't make any promises because of the nature of the problem, it's not a very procedural or very well understood situation, but I think I should be able to have the memory leak fixed sometime next week. After which I will be able to wholly invest myself in working on NPC fleets. Now, I can actually start up the AI server right now. I mean, we'll blow out all of our memory and crash the game, but I can start up. Let's not do that just yet. Once the memory leak is fixed, I can actually start up the AI server, and it will spawn 2 fleets in every solar system. Every single one. You go through every system. They're affiliated with different subfactions. Right now, you have no way of knowing which subfaction, but they are affiliated with someone. You can interact with them as you destroy one. Like, basically, your only options are kill the beast. So, basically, your only way to interact with them right now is to be enemies of one to be friends with another. We want to add more ways to sort of be cooperative and constructive and have more positive feedback from the game as well. But that's sort of features that build on features. So right now it's just getting fleets in, getting them working. Right now their only behavior, I kid you not, is just look. Like they'll spawn and they'll rotate. They'll watch you go by. They don't interact. And so obviously we need to sort of implement some kind of basic state system which switches between different strategic responses for each of these ships.
You should just keep it like this. It's way scarier.
We are ready.
They just look at you.
Look at you.
Fuck you up, man. Gonna fuck you up.
That's the...
I thought I was being cryptic in the forums, but people like the very first post guessed it. I was sad. Where I said there's a storm of brewing and solar, it's like there's a storm of brewing
in the coldest solar system.
And like I said, the coldest place in the galaxy. I think it was. And then like this was solar system 0.
Yeah,
no, like,
that's not that hard.
So like I'm gonna start making up lore. Good luck guessing that. I'm just gonna make. It's the one green with bubbles. Solar System 50. Why? Because that's why. Because you can't guess it if you don't know anything about it.
It's a bit hard to make lore over though, because I know that like the actual races in game would call it Solar System 50.
Moving out.
No, it'd be quadrant whatever, and from
do
there,
we want to discuss non-player solar systems?
Yeah, sure.
That before, Matt, you know the
No,
most.
I did bring them up a little bit, but we haven't discussed it that much.
Matt, Matt, you talk.
Matt
Talk.
does the most talk.
Well, things are gonna.
Over.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, things are gonna change a lot. Like a solar system as it exists in the what?
Just people yelling in my background. Don't know if you guys can hear it.
Nope.
Shut up, eFootball man.
I don't give a shit.
A solar system in the code on the server is a region, and it will not have anything to do with having a star or stars. So it's actually going to be different from what a solar system is, and we're going to make everything big. And you know, a solar system may actually have multiple star systems. And there's going to be gaps between things, and it's not going to be all linear and grid-like like it is right now. And
effectively, like right now, some of you have noticed every now and then we have the debug map of the solar system activated, which means in tactical view you see little yellow lines that differentiate each solar system. And they are the block of what a solar system is on the server. What we're going to actually be doing, though, is changing it so those areas is not just one solar system, but it's a quadrant that we can make into whatever the fuck we want. It can be multiple solar systems, it can be no solar systems, be whatever the hell Matt decides it is.
It could be just 50 stars.
Entire quadrant. It's entire quadrant.
Stars
just
cause AoE damage if you go near them. Just fuck you.
Just fuck you. Stay out of the solar system.
It's too bright to look at.
No. Make it just there's one spot in the very center of the solar system that you won't blow up if you FTL there, but because of FTL dispersion, you can never actually make it. If you land exactly in the dead center, you don't die.
Yeah, there's not gonna be like 3 NPCs to a solar system. NPCs are gonna be everywhere. Like, they don't take up a slot.
Yeah, NPCs do whatever the hell you want them to. Whatever the hell
They do whatever I tell them to.
And they can roam, like, before players even get there, they can go wherever the hell they please.
Yeah, in fact, one of the things I've been thinking about is we were talking about adding perks to affiliations with certain sub-factions and you know, thinking about ways to balance it so that it's fair. Because, you know, you don't really get to choose which like, sub-faction you get to spawn with. If you could, that would sort of make... it would make the player map really imbalanced. Because one of the things I've noticed in games over the years is it doesn't necessarily matter how well something is balanced. What matters is the player perception of balance. You know, something could be perfectly balanced and everyone believes, oh, this one class or this one character's OP, so, you know, everybody's going to play that class or character.
And nobody's going to play the Pink Knight.
And, you know, the Pink Knight might hit for quad 9s, but the reality is nobody wants to play. Well, some people, I would probably play the Pink Knight.
I know what you mean.
That's because you just want to hit for quad 9s.
But we're thinking about ways to sort of add perks to being friends with different NPC sub-factions while at the same time keeping it balanced. And one of the more fun ideas that we've had is actually making it so that if a sub-faction is neglected, it just goes on a rampage and just hundreds of ships start spawning all over the place and just moving through the galaxy and just destroying everything. Except for the very few friends that they have. So, be friends, be friendly, be nice.
Oh yeah, System Zero should just be a giant black hole doom.
System Zero is where everyone enters the solar system, so no one owns that region, or else people would constantly be FTLing onto your yard.
Well, no, Solar System Zero is going to be hell. That's where I'm going to put some kind of reward in like the center of the solar system and say good luck.
Oh yeah, you have to hold it for like 5 hours. And now you got it.
And those will be the worst 5 hours of your life.
It's like King of the Hill.
My desire for that, what I really would like to see in that is I want to see players come together. I want to see alliances fighting over something. I want to see groups of 10, 20 players on one side, 10, 20 players on another side. They come in, they say, I want this epic planet. I want this artifact. I want whatever it is that's here because mine. And I want to see these players have to actually work together to fight not only the NPC fleets but each other. For those of you who are familiar with RF Online, you know how ruthless that game is. It is a ruthless game. It is mean as could be, and you know there's basically 3 primary factions. You are on one of them, and your factions fight with other factions for places to gain experience or control over. Like when you win a war, you get a buff. If you lose a war, you get a debuff. And there are these things called pit bosses in the world, especially in high-level, highly contested areas. Pit bosses are fairly strong. They're very, very difficult to overcome. It may take your entire race to bring them down. But it's actually kind of fun because the other races want to do these same pit bosses, and it's amazing to see how much coordination and communication there. I'm confident like a lot of these people actually have each other's phone numbers to say, hey, they're going to do this pit boss. We got to fight.
My guild in Aeon did that. We controlled every single world boss, and we had each other's phone numbers. And someone was always camping every single boss. You would get points to spend on the drops if you camp for bosses.
It was very political, very interesting, because like the different races would actually have to work together to an extent to take down the pit bosses, and then at some point the one player would attack another, and it was chaos. Everything fell apart.
The final world boss in Aeon has never been defeated in Europe and North America because it requires both races to band together, and that will never happen in those 2 countries, for those 2 continents. It's happened in Korea, though.
I'm really nerdy and shit. I play D&D, I play EU4 and all that crap, but when I hear you guys talk about MMOs, I feel so totally normal. It's really nice.
I know, I happens to be the same thing. I was sitting like planning my next Warhammer like sculpture, and I'm like, dude, I'm just awesome.
I'm a nerd.
Honestly,
we just defeated the boss, first world ever!
This is an RTS, but it's also an MMO, and there are a lot of things that work in MMOs and have been proven to work and are fun. And that's my number 1 goal, is to make the game fun and engaging and changing over time, so people can stay engaged and keep having fun.
And and
we have a
Nick will
great
sell you
platform.
monocles for like $90.
Monocles,
Yes.
yeah, monocles. But we have a great platform for that. The way that everything's set up. Once all of our systems are working, but once they're all working and all of these features are in, we have a game that is actually going to mutate as the player does. We have a game that we can dynamically add content seamlessly.
I have this horrible vision of like the players starting up the game, all this like gamma radiation trying to start mutating in bizarre ass forms.
But
that was
we should sell monocles, and it should be called the Swanky Dinner Fund. And for every monocle we sell, we get to have a swanky dinner.
What the fuck is a swanky dinner?
The stuff that we don't get.
Bubble pipes.
That's hilarious. Say swanky again.
Swanky? Swanky? I don't know what you even mean. I don't know how to say that.
He can't speak, it's so good.
What the fuck?
It's pretty cool, Tyrus.
Oh yes. Wait
So
till like
Therian.
alienate all of those people.
What's a swanky?
I don't
Hey
know
guys,
what
real
swanky
quick.
is.
Therian, you're talking about when people enter a zone of conflict, and when ships enter it and they slowly die. We actually have been talking about systems like this. Nick, do you want to talk about asteroid fields for a second? Have we mentioned that yet?
We mentioned it a bit, but I think that really comes in with the whole like partitioning system. Not partitioning system. Yeah, partitioning system.
No, it's part of the physics system as a whole, and it actually has a built-in BV collider, but it's going to have to be adapted to work with our system. So it's kind of one of those things I'm going to have to do when I can find the time. But that comes back to what you're talking about there, and Wolf. AOE regions where it may heal, or repair player ships, or it may damage ships. We're planning on having things like that. So if you get too close to the sun, it starts damaging your ship. For instance, like even the fortress shields right now are very inefficient in the way that they handle collision. They just check every ship in the solar system, which is really, really bad. And that's one of
is a colloquialism.
It's one of those a colloquialism.
Shut your face.
Matt can speak either. He's Canadian.
It's one of those systems that we really want to get into place, and the sooner we can, the better, because we can start adding really interesting gameplay elements along with it. You know, maybe components or weapons that can create AoE effects instead of just single target shots, and more interesting ways for the player to sort of interact with the world around them. Supermassive black AoE systems. That is something that I can't promise, but I definitely want to see happen. And Forces Zero is probably going to be my...
you're a sadistic fuck.
Leave Solar System Zero alone. That is where people FTL into a galaxy.
Peace is boring, Nick. Peace is really boring. You call me sadistic.
All of a sudden, I understand all of the world's problems.
Oh, no,
Tom
no.
isn't
This American
sadistic.
mentality scares me.
Someone always
He
says that he wants to go to
absolutely
Japan or
hates-
some shit, but he's just confused as an American who doesn't know the world as all of them.
Obviously,
He
it's my...
You want to go to
absolutely
North
hates
Korea.
Dark Souls, Demon Souls.
And plant
He can't
his
stand
flag.
those games. I love them, but I don't die in them, and he just gets raped.
It's, our closest leader, Tom.
games that kill you randomly. I like games that say, "Hey, you could die if you do this," and then if I die, it's well, all right. Well, that
That
was
game
Oh, I do
says
agree.
you're going to die if you do this. You say, I don't want to use shields. Fuck
The second
shields.
the second level. You go out on a bridge and a dragon eats you, or burns you to death. Sorry.
It
So different.
announces to you that the dragon is coming. It for a full minute in advance. It's like,
And then you're like, "Oh God, there's a dragon
you
up there."
don't just
Don't
die.
snap.
Like the dragon
Like-
actually, it flies overhead the same direction that you're going, does a full loop. You have enough time to run back this whole time. Comes at you, sits down, gets back up. Rapes your face. You're like, oh, I was too busy staring at the dragon to notice that the dragon was going to kill me.
But how does that make you feel?
I think Tom just whipped out I know what you are, but what am I in a more modernized version.
Yeah, that's actually a good topic. Since this is the first one that actually goes into YouTube, maybe talk a bit about our ideas on grounded combat.
Yes, at the moment, and for the foreseeable future, ground combat will be limited to forces battling it out of your control. So you will drop military divisions onto enemy planets, and they will fight against the defending planets with different modifiers and buffs and so forth, and you'll be getting status reports of how it's going. Sometime in the future, we'd like to add in a more controllable version of ground combat, but at the moment, that's not a very high priority, as players have more than enough to already be micromanaging with the space combat. Yes, we do plan on having some sort of massive way to just print out an image of the entire solar system. Actually, this is really cool. Tom, tell them about that the software you got that like actually renders the locations of all the ships and all that stuff. The 2D image.
That's just using SDL. It's just a rendering API. I basically
and
hooked up
doesn't
a very...
work on the servers.
Well, yeah, the servers don't have... the servers have certain limitations. They don't render things very well. I can render it from my desktop because I actually have a graphics card, and you know.
Holy shit!
Like,
He has a
it
graphics
works.
card.
Yeah, well, servers do not. They're just...
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's
You
not really
actually
something.
can
cool
have
for
servers with
so
graphics.
it can be as ugly as I want. It's just squares and dots, and
Actually,
maybe like heading arrows.
Don't, shouldn't the I don't know what our servers use, but I thought they were not using i7s.
No, they're using Xenon.
Yeah, because i7s should have like the onboard graphics.
Don't use i7s in servers.
But I've actually seen them before, which is really dumb. It's way too expensive for what they do.
That's a pretty cool idea. Someone just had a cool idea that what we should do is every year we print out like a massive image of everything that's in the galaxy. Everything that's going on.
One thing we're gonna have to do at some point, and I've been talking to Lance a little bit about this, is we really have to have an overlay depicting influence for different subfactions. And I can send that across the network as an image when the player logs in or whenever it goes through a significant change, but it's going to have to happen at some point.
There you go. Eventually, ground combat will be Panzer General 2.
Which is pretty awesome. That's actually a game I need to play more. It's so cool.
But I don't know. In general, our solar system map winds up looking like a big spiral. That image that was sent was, at least it looked to me like it was a collection of a lot of different solar systems.
No, that's the entire known universe, or like
It's
more than that.
everything. So it's like a dot in the universe.
Yeah, our own universe is spiral.
No,
I mean our own galaxy is spiral.
Yeah, somebody. I saw somebody say, you know, the way that we look at the universe, it's sort of like going out in the middle of the ocean, taking a pen light, putting the pen light into the water, and trying to see the bottom. Like, well, that's good luck.
Oh, what's interesting is that we've been to the moon more times than we've been to the bottom of the ocean.
That should be true. I think we have only touched the bottom of the deepest ocean at least.
Yeah,
maybe
the
twice
Marinas
or so?
Trench
Or once?
is. We've touched it 4 times.
Yeah.
We've been to the moon more times than that.
What? There's only been like one mission to the moon.
No.
No.
Oh, I'm serious
We're
about that.
planning on going to Mars right now.
See? And Nick is making a space game.
No, I'm wait a minute now.
Awaiting orders. We are ready for orders.
Okay, so yeah, this is.
Probably look this up, Nick.
Just, I don't want to say each server is a galaxy because it's not necessarily a good depiction. But if you want to consider it this way, that you could go and say that each server is a galaxy, and so at the end of the day, I mean, if everyone in the entire world played our game, we still wouldn't wind up with a map this intricate. This is just kind of on another scale.
Yeah, but real life has a lot more like weird shit going on, which we can't even explain. So yeah, in some
I mean, we could make a really cool looking nebula and just say it's.
Yeah, but we don't know what it actually does. So it might have like weird influence that shifts stuff around or not. I mean, we can make it look cool, but we wouldn't know how it would look like in real life.
Yeah.
Or why.
But it doesn't
Wow,
matter.
there's been actually very few successful missions to the moon. Holy crap.
Yeah, well, especially if you count Russia and China.
China hasn't tried it yet.
China
You mean,
tried last year, I think.
especially if you count Russia. Russia was the first
Not on the moon.
to try.
They were the
try,
first to,
yeah.
Russia was the first in absolutely everything except getting to the moon.
Yeah, that's because
Everything.
duct tape
There
shit.
have been 6 manned U.S. landings and numerous
But America-
unmanned landings.
I find it really funny how Russia beat the U.S. to absolutely everything in the space race, and then the U.S. did 6 landings on the moon. Like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. Like,
Well,
Anyway.
Soviets aren't dumb. We're just fast.
I don't really have any sort
They
of.
were brilliant. Like, they got it all. Like, first man in space, first living creature in space, first living creature to return from space, first satellite, first inner ICBM, first everything.
They were the first ICBM?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They're also the first mission around the planet. Like, they got first in absolutely everything.
Huh.
Except the moon.
That's a lie. There's no way there can be less McDonald's than libraries in the States.
I don't know.
I don't believe that. I refuse to believe that.
It's like purely... Yeah, well, there's more, like, there's like 50,000 clones of McDonald's. So if it's maybe just McDonald's, then I would probably believe it. But if you
There
count all
is
the clones, then...
As a dyslexic who really likes salads, I run from them both equally.
We're gonna have planets orbiting around wherever the fuck we want. And planets can orbit around suns, they can orbit around other planets. There can be stationary planets, there can be planets that don't belong to any sun. All sorts of weird shit we're gonna add in.
Yeah, wasn't that something
There's a
we
lot of
actually
there's a lot
discovered,
of aesthetic things I want to add, like binary systems and pulsars, and like I really want to have some way of representing the quasar
Pulsars
of our
are not
galaxy.
aesthetic.
Hey, Ryan.
Well, I mean, we could basically render
Die!
them. No, pulsars are they're actually they emit radio frequencies. I don't know if they themselves are actually. Huh?
They're tame as long as they're not looking at you.
Well, they just spin insanely fast, just insanely fast. So I mean, we would basically have to represent it as you know being slower than it really was. Otherwise, it would be something you couldn't interpret. Yeah, a quasar. Theoretically, at the center of our galaxy, there is a cluster of black holes that orbit each other, and that's sort of the engine that drives our galaxy to have this large spiral shape.
And we still have never actually seen a black hole.
Well, yeah, because
no, but we have seen the effects of
see.
one. No, we have seen the effects of one.
Can't see one because it absorbs.
No, but we have never actually even proven that they are there. We think they're there.
But we have seen evidence of light being bent into a black hole.
Yeah, that's true.
Light being bent, which would lead to the assumption that there is probably a black hole.
Let's just work under the assumption that black holes exist. At least they exist in our game. Well, the way a quasar works is it's not just one supermassive black hole, but a series of black holes which are caught in each other's orbit. Typically, it can be both ways, though. And what will normally happen is these black holes will spin around each other in extreme velocities because they're caught in each other's orbit. And what happens is they start emitting a tangential force. I forget the exact name of the effect, but basically it's tangential to the plane of rotation. And it starts emitting in both directions along that plane a jet stream of energy and matter that's consumed by their orbit. So as you know, light and like any sort of like debris in space is consumed, it's emitted very forcefully from both sides of this plane of rotation. And what
like a really bad Indian dinner.
And what's happening is
quasar is just a really strong lawnmower.
Wow.
Cosmic scale, sure. Lawnmower fuck me up, so I imagine it would really mess up. Yeah. Like,
that's something I want to see in like a scientific journal. Basically
we have a lawnmower. The people are like, what are those lawnmowers? We dubbed them the quasars.
Well, they're on such a
massive. Go in and they shoot out projectiles.
They shoot projectiles on such a massive scale that they span 2.5 galaxies in length, in matter and energy. So it's basically a giant space laser jet
of doom
that you just have to look at you.
Yeah, basically, if it points at you, everything near you dies.
My three biggest fears are gorillas, quasars, and aneurysms.
And hospital bills.
No, I don't fear hospital bills. I hate them.
You don't fear American hospital bills?
He lives in the glorious capitalist America.
You can avoid the hospital by just not going to it.
But you can't avoid the gorillas.
You can't avoid the death.
I'm not even kidding. The survival guide for a gorilla attack is don't be near a gorilla.
Gorillas are coming for you, Tom.
That's the survival guide. Good luck. They eat the insides of trees for fun. There's a 1 millimeter segment of the specific type of tree that they like, and they actually tear open this tree and eat that one little. It's called the pith, that 1 little millimeter. And they don't eat it for nourishment. They eat it because it's tasty.
There you go.
So
the survival guide for the Varanos is don't be near the Varanos.
There you go. I'm terrified of gorillas.
Funny.
No, technically humans are chimpanzees, aren't we?
Or apes. No, we're monkeys. I don't know.
Apes, yeah, but are we closer related to chimpanzees than gorillas?
Yeah, like I don't think we are necessarily descendant of gorillas. I think gorillas are their own branch.
Actually, translated like 60 or so, 64, I think. Chimpanzee hunting dolls. Now that they released, it's pretty cool. They actually know how chimps talk to each other now.
Well, chimps are chimp-like mammals.
Chimp, monkeys, and apes are not the same thing.
Heading to that point.
Well, monkeys and apes and Dutch are the same thing. It's just
This is the greatest stream ever. We're talking about gorillas.
Hey, that's how we always end up.
Fuck space.
Gorillas, quasars, now we just need to get on to aneurysms and we would hit your trifecta.
Well, aneurysms are very simple. You never see it coming, and you're just dead. Good luck.
Bam, dead.
By the way, if anyone in chat actually has a legit question or something, ask and we'll prioritize that over apes and monkeys and gorillas.
We'll prioritize that behind the aneurysms, the gorillas, and the quasars. But no, you know, I mean, like, when you say those three together, you just must combine them into a massive space gorilla that wields quasars and has an aneurysm.
A gorilla the size of a quasar emitting a jet energy laser beam thing, having
No, dude.
Eventually, Tom and I are going to add space dragons, and
should
there's
have-
nothing you can do about it. We'll have dragons in space.
We should have like a
And
Titanic
we'll-
jungle planet with like banana trees with a giant ape on it.
We'll
And
take
with, like, a
screenshots
banana
and we'll
laser.
show it to Rodrigo, and Rodrigo will have an aneurysm.
My death fleet is just, you know, a boat with lasers.
rogue planets.
Orders received.
So what do you mean by a rogue planet? Are you talking about a planet that has escaped the orbit of the sun?
Which was, I believe, actually found in real life.
Heading to that point.
Well, yeah,
Imagine
yeah.
that one. We're gonna have planets that aren't part of a sun, and planets can have their own planets orbiting them.
Yeah. It's sort
Planet
of
orbitception.
It's sort of a C priority, though. I mean, it's not something that we really need for the game to work and be fun. And that's what our focus is on right now, is getting everything working, getting everything stable and fun and consistent. Because there are several features that we need to put into the game to sort of make it an immersive and you know, fulfilling experience. But it is something that we are keeping our eyes on, and as we develop the game, we will eventually reach that point.
I'm really excited about making the solar systems, the quadrants, much larger and like actually hiding stuff in them. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Like actually, expanding more on the exploration benefits of space.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things we're talking about is right now every solar system is more or less, I don't want to say the same, but you know, it's got a sun, it's got, you know, several planets in orbit. You go to the next solar system, same kind of deal, and we're going to break that up. We're going to have solar systems that, you know, are NPC owned completely, or solar systems that are just hell. There's maybe something special about it, but good luck getting there. We're going to have solar systems that, well, it's a big deal, right? Like, it's got to be interesting.
Good luck getting there.
Oh, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to cheat so badly. Because, I mean, the reality is I've got a lot of responsibilities, and I can't sit here and make AI perfect. What I can do is make it overpowered.
I don't know why. I have trouble even like getting the comment. Can I hide a fleet in the shadow of a sun? You know, like like a shadow by definition is something that's not hit by the sun.
Well, I guess if a sun were to project light across a planet, it would be in the shadow of a planet directly in front of the sun. But no, I don't really think that.
No, I think it's more asking like actual in-game wise. The planets don't block line of sight. We assume that if you have the technology for intergalactic travel and light speed travel, you can figure out what's behind a planet.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be able to figure this shit out.
And we're also, one of the things we're looking at right now is stealth technology.
Suns do not have shadows.
Nice.
I guess technically
I like that
they
one.
do, sort of.
Not enough CP to build those ships there.
Yeah, I know. We should really limit the amount of messages the game spams to you.
I feel like you get the idea.
Yeah.
You
Well,
actually
I think
have
we should
more
really-
CP sent than you're allowed.
This is actually one of the problems. Our game has some difficulty with feedback. There are a lot of times when the player, you know, knows things aren't working, but they're not sure why. And so we have to do things like this right now, where we just spam a message over and over and over, saying, "Hey, this is your problem."
Pay
And
attention.
that comes down to the fact that our chat system isn't complete yet. Right now, one of Matt's biggest features is he's working on the chat server, and we're going to be working on a client-sided, robust chat implementation that supports filters and alliance chat and player-to-player
It'll
mess.
actually be like an MMO.
Yeah, so
Holy shit.
we'll have a social aspect to our MMO. Surprise. And what that will help with is we can actually have a filter for system messages. So you can actually go in and say what's going on. You can see a message. Oh, well, every time I try and build a ship now, it fails because I don't have enough CP. And then we can gracefully just stop spamming the console. But that's one of the things I'm most excited for, actually. As simple as it is, just something like better social interaction mechanisms is going to make.
There shouldn't be anything wrong with the out-of-date stuff right now.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah,
I mean,
also, just as a note to everyone, and I should probably mention this at the beginning of all future live streams, when we have a lot of people in the stream, some people are answering questions verbally, and some other people are also answering them in the chat. So there has been other questions that have been asked in the chat that we've been answering as other people are answering verbal ones, just to be more like efficient stuff.
Yeah.
I'll pass that on.
Alright, here's a good question. I think we should probably set the final warning on because we've gone over time actually. Do we definitely plan on doing another story contest? Yes, we do. There's a 100% chance we will be doing another one within the next month or possibly 2 at max. So start planning your stories and thinking through what you would like to write on that, and we will update you with more information as we get closer.
That'd be horrible if you had a weapon that spawned Navi. Hey, listen!
Oh god.
Hey, listen!
Oh my god. I would.
It's the troll weapon. It's a pay to troll. Novus AEterno, it's not pay to win, it's pay to troll.
You have to pay for that weapon.
Exactly. $1 per Navi. Just the guy that pops out $500 and just made someone commit suicide.
No, I was talking to Lance recently.
Wow.
And Dime, he was really wanting to go back and sort of rehash through our Dime paradigm and try and bring out some, because we have military down really well, but we have some things, information that we really kind of want to go back and approach, like making recon a little bit more of a thing in the game. What was that? That was window.
As opposed to it's not thing right now.
It's really not much of a thing.
Yeah,
right
Fog of War, that's about it.
Yeah, and information just isn't really information and economics can be built on a lot. The research system, when that's your task right now, right, Matt?
What?
Research, like fixing up the research system, making it actually do things again.
Yeah, right now I'm working on research.
Okay, so once that's back in, we can actually start kind of having progression in the game of some sort, and that'll bring out a little bit more of the information and economics, and diplomacy will come back in with social aspects. So once you get the chat server and we have a better working chat implementation on the client, that's really going to round out a lot of the different parts of our game. Then the interactions between those can depict a large chunk of player investment.
I think after I finish research, I'm gonna make the instances more usable by you.
Yes, that's another thing. And I haven't talked to you about this too much, Nick, but we need to get combat instances working again for many different reasons. But one of which is we want to actually make it so that when you go, when you're playing the game, right, maybe you have some kind of very simple storyline things or missions that you need to do with an NPC fleet as a constructive way to gain influence. In order to make this a good experience for the player, they need to go into a separate instance. And then they can do whatever mission they have in that instance and then come back and then unlock maybe some new hull or prototypes or some sort of research as a reward for doing that.
The Cauldron-born shoot viruses.
Yeah.
That's their whole thing.
I'm going to go out and say this as well. If I say I haven't talked to Nick about it yet, that means that I'm fairly sure that it's something he's going to like, but if he says it's not a good idea, it's not happening.
So you're the opposite of Pyro.
Exactly. Pyro says shit that he never discussed with me to try and make me like it. No. He says stuff he never discussed with me on a live stream, so I can't say no.
Technically, half the people on the internet don't play COD because there's billions of people on the internet and there's only millions of COD sold.
Awaiting orders.
Wait, if you play COD, half the people on the internet do apparently. What?
Awaiting order.
Think he wants to play Call of Duty with you?
Maybe he wants to play COD.
I'm touched. I'm flattered. I didn't know we had that kind of relationship. In all honesty, I haven't played COD since COD 4. I love COD 4. I played the hell out of COD 4, but since then I actually really haven't played COD.
Now he actually has a good taste in games.
In fact,
COD 4 was really good,
COD 4 was
honestly.
actually fun. That's great.
COD 4 made a great competitive FPS. I really enjoyed it. It wasn't. It was a bit more like fun and engaging than CS 1.6, but it wasn't like too over the top with the newbie crap. And the COD 4 Pro mod was really nice, like limiting the perks and stuff. I really enjoyed it.
I played it for single player.
less people own COD than people live in Toronto.
Wow.
I have no clue how many people live in Toronto, so that's...
Not many.
Oh,
Well, a lot as far as Canada goes, but you know, Canada isn't all that big to begin with.
Canada is fucking humongous. It's
Oh yeah, our
fucking
landmass,
big.
but we only have like 33 million people.
Yeah, which is weird. It's like twice the amount we have here. Like less than twice the amount.
That's because you're tiny and
We're fucking ants.
yeah, you can't. But
Maybe
America,
maybe I'm just dumb,
like
but
12
I like
times.
Battlefield more than COD. But here's why, though. Here's why I like Battlefield more than COD. I suck at first-person shooters. Like, I just don't have it, whatever the it factor is. I'm terrible. It's sad.
Hey, I really like It's Connor's idea of for the next Admiral's Night Out doing a Civ 5 game with the devs.
Oh, I'll definitely join.
I could do that. I
Alright,
like Civ 4. I like Civ 4, but Civ 5 is good too.
What's that Battlefield game? I think it had a year after it. There was a whole series of them.
1942?
Yeah, it's not affiliated with the Battlefield series, right?
No, it is actually part of Battlefield. It's like a predecessor to Battlefield.
I like those games.
Well,
Those were
I
really
like Battlefield because I can do things like just sit there with a rocket launcher and look for a plane and say, you.
cool. Be like a freaking.
You.
What I liked about Battlefield 1942 is that, like, if you're alone in a bomber, like, you have to be piloting the bomber and you jump out and shoot one of the guns, the bomber starts falling, you jump back in the pilot seat, like, bring it up again, then jump up again, and then start
I actually
that
still
was so
play
much
Battlefield 2. It's a really good game. What mod that is.
Battlefield 2 was great. I enjoyed
Yeah.
Battlefield 2 a lot.
I think the first game, FPS I really played online.
The first FPS, no, I was old school. The first FPS I really played was Counter-Strike 1.6. I played the hell out of that game. I played.
Counter-Strike.
I love Counter-Strike 1.6, and then I played Source, and it was like, oh my god, what the fuck is this? This was like so. It was strange. It's exactly the same game, but it's so different.
I don't like it because it pretends to be tactical and shit, but it really isn't. You still just run around like a fucking retard with an M16 and just shoot people in the face.
No, I loved 1.6 because of how tactical and all that stuff it was, and then I played the first Crisis, and I was like, oh my god, running around like a retard, jumping off of fucking walls, just spraying in people's faces is so much fun, and it's so much more tactical. Like, I loved Crisis 1. That was by far,
Crisis
hands
1
down,
was
my
cool.
favorite FPS.
And it still
I
looks really
played
awesome.
that. I played that game to death. I mean, like my team was like first in the world for like a year and something. And I love that game so much. Such a good game.
This is
Then
kind
I
of
don't know what the fuck happened.
off topic, but as a server engineer, looking at, I'm just watching you play the game, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, every single stream we've ever had, I've sat there and I've watched this, and I've just been like, please don't break, please don't break, please don't break. Please
Oh,
don't.
yeah, for sure.
And it has just been for so long, and it never does. You know, it never does. But I'm just wondering if that's like how a soccer mom is. Like, don't miss the ball, don't miss the ball, don't miss the ball, don't get hurt, don't trip, don't embarrass yourself, don't throw the bat.
Like,
Don't
an
throw
hour
the
ago or
bat.
something, when the server was about to save, I was scared shitless, because I thought the game was just crashing like a motherfucker again, but it was gonna save. But I was like,
No.
oh my god, we stream, and the game is fixed, and it dies.
The game has a mind of its own. Like, sometimes the game's like absolutely falling apart, like there's massive bugs, it's just not playable, and I have to do a demo, and all of a sudden it works perfectly
Yeah.
for 2.5 hours, and then like exactly after the demo ends, everyone says, oh, it was great demo. I go back on the game to try and log out, like server crashes, everything dies, like fire burns, it's
I
dead.
think
I'm like, Alt F4, Alt F4. Yeah, great demo. Everything went so perfect. Yes, Alt F4, Alt F4.
Well, I mean, it behaves when we need it. But, you know, honestly, though, it's come so far. It's come so far since the first day, you know, and it's getting better. You know, once we get this memory leak fixed, I think we'll really be able to have, you know, at least 2 weeks of uptime, probably just perpetual uptime. We actually have a very stable framework. We just have a couple of persistent problems to work through. And that's really cool for me to see that. Coming from where we were and where we are now, it is just phenomenal to watch. And I'm at a point now where I'm like, okay, well, I'm being too hard on it. My game's all grown up.
I know. It really is like that. It's like that moment you sit there and say, wow, you know, it happens to me pretty much every single time I get on it. Like, for the first 10 minutes, I'm like, oh god, so many problems. And like, someone attacks me, I start talking to people, I start playing, I'm like, actually, like, really fun. It's like, actually come a really long way.
It's a really good feeling. It's a good feeling. But we've got a long way to go. There's a lot of little things that we want to do, and even well after we release.
Okay, someone actually asked a very good question about when will we start seeing scanners in the game that will be able to give us more information on other ships and stuff like that. I think that would come in once, Matt, you've redone the chat server architecture, correct?
No. That'll come in after you can get information on your own ships.
That's actually something we can also put into our current component framework. Like a lot of this can be done mostly client sided with just an acknowledge from the server that.
No, talk about like the other ships being able to stand what other players.
I know, but you currently can't see what your own ships have.
Yeah, that's
once
what I'm saying.
they're in the field.
What he was asking.
Once we can see what. I know, but what I'm saying is we'll have that once we can see what.
Yes, and what he's asking is that. What is that process? What is lacking until we can see that?
UIs.
Yeah, mostly it's just going to be the way we represent it, but we also have to send across ship-specific information.
Yeah, there'll be some like security stuff, but it's like majorly just UIs.
Yeah. Like right now, you know what type of hull. Right now, players know what type of hull that other players have. And so you can obviously see visually what's going on, and they know when the ship shoots, but they don't know what kind of weapons it has. They don't have a lot of.
They don't even know what hull it is. They know what the
That's
hull
true, actually. They know the visual for that hull, but you know some hulls share a visual. So this is true, and all of that is going to be sent over with a packet called ship-specific information, which. Interesting note was the culprit was one of the major culprits behind the malformed packet. Yeah, it's actually a deceptively large packet.
It can be. Yes.
Let's see.
Especially since it has things like ammo count and shit.
Keep asking, can we put a total biscuit and pay off a player? Don't touch the regular planet and make the planet complete. All right, so what you want to do is basically nuke a planet, Noof. That's from what I understand. Nick, do you want
me to
translate with DB?
No nuking of planets.
No nuking.
We'll go translate that. Okay, guys. I want to show you guys like if you all knew that like as soon as you guys stop asking questions, you get to hear one of the new tracks from the game, which is not completely finished, but it is awesome. So like stop asking stupid questions.
Yes.
Luke, I just posted the a link for you to download the song in case you didn't have it. Imminent.
I try to be friendly.
There are no stupid answers. Just everything is a stupid question.
Okay, so
I'm gonna go lay down after this, and then I'm gonna get back to work. So if you guys want things to be fixed, I gotta go soon.
Let's see where I have it.
You can never make it useless.
You can never make a planet useless because it's a persistent universe. So eventually the trolls would make the entire game unplayable because every single planet was uncolonizable.
There's no
now, that being said, for the espionage side of things, I could see a temporary effect on a planet.
There will be temporary effects, but no like blow up planets or make things useless or.
You know what I really want to have in like the espionage like array of tools is like LSD, the water supply, and all of a sudden you start getting reports from the planet. You start getting like reports from your consul general on the planet, like the sky is so pretty.
To be able to LSD the air.
Hey Luke, It's Fourth. Well, in the spirit of 4th of July, and since I didn't shoot any fireworks,
Yesterday.
what do you say we do a fireworks show on the server?
That was yesterday.
Oh, we can do that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Isn't today
before
like Canada Day or something?
No, that's
that
yesterday or
was
something.
the
So, what kind of fireworks show do you want to do this time?
Capital ships and.
Oh, dude, not capital ships. I will fucking break everything. They are not optimized yet. If you have like 50 on them, everything just slows to a crawl.
All right. Dreads and Corvettes.
I don't really know at
About
spawn number
1,000
for them.
Corvette.
I'll
Just
spawn the-
whatever.
I'll spawn
Whatever
the
kind of
destroyers.
ships.
How many? Do you
Whatever
want?
kind of ships.
1,000 Corvettes. Blow them up. Do it now.
I don't know the Corvettes either. I'll just spawn 1,500 destroyers.
5,900.
You're like Amanda. Where do you want to eat? Oh, whatever's fine.
I don't know. Anywhere's fine. I don't want to.
Hey, you want the fireworks show? You have to work for it.
You want to go to Mexican? No, I don't want Mexican. You want American?
I did it wrong.
American.
Shut up, Luke. We don't pay you to do stuff.
That's totally fine with me. I'll get paid to do nothing. It's just
We don't pay you to do stuff.
No,
we don't pay you.
well, theoretically we got paid, so it's like I like it in theory. Okay.
So yeah, Noof, I think that falls under the information aspect. Military is typically going to be ships shooting each other, but information can also cover espionage, and that is something that I would like to see in the game as well.
I don't foresee there will be much outright destroying of players' planets. That would just be way too hard to balance.
Yeah, but you could do things like you could hinder their population, or maybe have like some kind of biological warfare, or maybe destroy, like burn things in their warehouses.
Maybe you could make it so that you change the type the planet is. So maybe you can make it in like uninhabitable for the races on it currently, but not for other races.
I don't know. That's kind of a big thing. You kind of notice when people are terraforming your planet.
Well, I mean,
Like that was the whole point of Avatar.
Wait a minute, guys, wait a minute, okay? Wait a minute.
Awaiting orders.
What would be the signs of terraforming? Increasing heat, strange weather patterns?
Well, we
These
have
fuckers on your planet
They're
with giant
fucking
machines.
terraforming Earth and we don't even know it. The fuckheads be terraforming Earth.
Oh, the alien show.
Okay,
Aliens,
so
Let's
after a year of playing the game, suddenly your planet changes and it's like, oh shit, that thing I started terraforming a year ago finally worked.
I imagine time works on kind of a different scale in the Novus AEterno universe. So
It
you
does,
could,
but what I'm saying is, if you're calling what we're currently doing terraforming, and it takes millions of years.
I imagine we would have like biological warfare. Like I would like to have a thing where you can actually zombify a planet. I think that would be
Oh, that's
5
fun.
real minutes is 3 months in game.
But that would be something really hard to do, and it
And
would
there's-
kind of be
You can
very-
actually do that in another space game called Sword to Stars. You can, I believe at least, you can actually put a plague on someone else's planet and actually zombify them, which then creates a NPC faction. It's really cool.
Zombies. Space
Yeah.
zombies.
I was thinking about making a tower defense game where it's PvP and any units that you kill get sent back at your opposition. Like they resurrect and zombify and
That's actually a game type that TB does in StarCraft. Actually, every unit that gets killed on the map by anyone will spawn as a hostile NPC to anyone. Which means that the longer the game actually goes on, the more NPCs will keep spawning. And everyone just dies. It's really fun to watch.
It's always so cool to see this because we have such ridiculous expectations for our servers.
Moving out.
Usually works
I'm just
fine.
thinking-
Why
I
is
don't
it
think it's
ridiculous?
Well, the want
I think there's actually a good question, guys. There's a good question here. Do we think Novus AEterno will be accepted in the esports scene? I think it will in the instances, which is an enclosed match
Basically,
between
like
two
an
players.
RTS match.
Yeah,
I
it's an
think-
enclosed match between two players at a set CP cap. And I think that will be accepted in the esports scene.
Surprisingly effective. I think that that's going to be one of the biggest parts of the game, and that's kind of a source of, disagree. Like there's two parts of the game really. There's the instances, and then there's the expansionistic persistent universe, and that's, you know, the focus of the game is that expansionistic persistent universe, but I think there's going to be a significant PvP angle.
Get the fireworks going. I'm
Yeah.
sleepy.
Yeah, I'll start the music as well now, so people can actually listen to that while shit is exploding.
I'm excited for the tournament that we're gonna have, and I want that to happen sooner rather than later, but stability comes first.
Yes.
Okay, guys.
Shut up.
We'll speak to you guys later. We're all gonna mute
up,
ourselves now and start playing music
Dutchy
and blowing
person.
shit up.
Yes.
Okay.
Cheers, guys.
See
It was a pleasure
you
having you
in
guys
2
on.
weeks.
Don't forget to write all of your questions that you guys have, whether you're watching it here on the live stream or on YouTube. Ask all your questions in response to any one of the posts, ideally on our forums, and we'll get to your question in the next live stream in case you can't make it. Cheers, guys. Have
This
fun.
will go on
Bye.
YouTube tonight or maybe tomorrow morning, depends on how fast it all goes. So
Yeah, but they don't really care because they already saw it once. They're here.
not all of it, and it's laggy and it's like fun and
Yeah.
stuff. So,
Goddamn Twitch.
yeah. Anyway, here we go. Bye bye.
Bye.
Play the song, jerk. It's still not playing. The stream is only 10 seconds delayed. Oh, I had it muted.
seated. We'll be figuring this out as we go. Alright, 1 second.
If you look to your right, you'll see an abundance of large ships. We're going to detonate them. Please remain seated and ensure that your seatbelt is fastened at all times. Why do they do that? They do that. They always go, "Aww."
Awaiting orders.
The Heroes of Might and Magic series.
Say hello, Dan.
Right now.
Dan, say hello, they say.
Tell Dan they're gonna play Civ 5. He wants
Yes.
If Luke doesn't type something in chat on the game soon, I'm gonna destroy every ship.
In the entire game universe. Just like, nope, the delete button.
It's about to happen, so
Oh! No ship.
I want to see these fireworks.
No.
Just type something in chat.
Why is your name Bitch Tits? I'm pretty sure that's what I changed it to.
Admin abuse of powers.
Luke.
Don't forget
the
to turn
Bitch
off the
Tits
timer.
of Luke.
This is so to blow everything up. I want to see stuff die.
Ice 222232. Warehouse is full. It's a lot of
Yeah, so everybody just got the hammer. I'll give people ships. This is happening.
The Tom giveth and the Tom taketh away. No. Matt is the server god, but Tom is the server Loki. He just fucks with me.
So I'm that should be the other way around. I should be Loki and he should be Thor. I'm the one that fucks with everyone.
Yeah, that's actually not bad. That just looks so awesome.
Oh, say
It's going in order.
See
It
ships
depends on the
floating, Michael Bay.
Exactly. Novus
Michael Bay
Eterno.
edition.
This is the Novus Eterno trailer directed by Michael Bay. Just like
You should,
10,000 ships blowing up.
When you post this, you should post this as Novus Eternal Michael Bay edition.
No, you know what we should do? We should replace every single special effect in the game with just a massive fantastic big explosion. For like April Fool's is the Michael Bay edition. Like everything, like turning on the engine, the like blinking lights on everything is replaced by Master. Oh, is it telling every single ship you've lost?
We've lost a
Oh,
ship, sir.
Whatever.
We're taking heavy fire!
Yes, I've lost a ship. And again.
Wait.
Into the back. I think I'm gonna multi-thread this too. Like I'm gonna actually multi-thread the ships exploding. So this will happen a little bit faster.
Oh no, you shouldn't make it faster. This is way better, yo.
It actually is kind of cool the way it is.
If they all explode at the same time, it looked kind of shitty.
It's not
They're
really
just
worth
different
your time making this go faster.
Just
Should have just shot one, because then you'd get all the knockbacks.
Yeah, that would have actually been a lot more interesting.
And if they're... Like, it wouldn't take you that long to kill one, as long as you didn't look at your opposition.
Alright, everybody who lost ships in that,
I feel bad for you.
Oh, hey.
Too bad.
My capital. Oh no, that's your capital. Responsible.
nice. Everybody who lost ships in that, type something in chat, and I will spawn you some ships.
Everyone who's watching.
There's 26 people watching.
Okay, guys, I think we do need to head off for the night. This stream went an hour longer than it should have. But
That's a fun stream. though.
Because me and the other cool guy showed up and entertained people,
Yeah.
unlike you guys. Luke is so boring.
I'm super boring. When I'm playing the game, I can't really pay attention to the
Luke,
rest,
you're boring.
so
Shut
what the
up.
fuck?
Stop
Shut
arguing.
Up. You're a fucking server midget. Go back to your basement.
It's not my fault I'm not.
you are a
fucking-
server Oompa Loompa.
It's not my fault I'm not 7 feet tall. Fucking giant.
You should be though, but you're
You
not.
should be.
10 capital ships per person.
That will fucking destroy people.
Okay, guys, we shall be heading off. If you are in game, some of us are sticking around to play in game, in which case just like write shit in chat. And yeah.
Tom will be here for the next 4 hours watching for you
Oh
guys.
no, I'm gonna go play a fun game. I'm gonna go play Pong with Tom.
Yes. Pong was actually pretty fun when it was like new.
Pong was fun back in the day
Pong was
before
awesome.
we got things.
Uh,
Alright.
And then Tetris came out and it was like, fuck Pong.